Hi everyone, it's the end of Passover and I was in the group DM today and people were talking about Elijah the prophet. So I have a good Elijah the prophet story loosely based on a tale from the Baal Shem Tov. But I think told and retold so many times that it's now just kind of in the ether of Judaism. First, the reason we were discussing Elijah is something funny popped up on Reddit. Someone posted that she was Jewish and had taken her non-Jewish boyfriend to her family's house for a Seder. And this was all new to him. They were doing the whole Elijah's cup of wine, opened the door, offered up to Elijah, which in Jewish folklore and Jewish religion would kind of prophesize the coming of the Messiah and the beginning of the Messianic age. I'm not religiously Jewish, so it's not something that I hold by as a personal practice. But as you'll see in a second, the story I'm going to tell has, I think, kind of a secular lesson to it as well. So the family explains to this non-Jewish boyfriend, we put out a cup of wine, we open the door for Elijah, we welcome him in. And, you know, the young kids of the family get all excited and maybe Elijah's going to come. And the boyfriend is like, well, what do you do with the cup after? And they're like, well, like nothing. We just are done and we go to sleep at the end. And so overnight, the boyfriend drinks the glass of wine and puts down some candy. And in the morning, he tells the kids, Elijah came and drank the wine and left you some candy. So everyone gets upset with him and is mad. And he's like, what's the big deal? It's just like Santa. And they're like, we didn't need notes on Passover. We've been doing this for thousands of years. We did not need your spin on it. So that was funny. We were all laughing at that story. And I asked people, hey, do you know the Baal Shem Tov story about Elijah? And people were like, no. And I'm like, oh, it's a really good one. I am going to do a video because it's so long. I'm not going to try and type this all out. So here we go. The Baal Shem Tov was a great teacher, rabbi, told stories. Stories were told about him. I'm not going to try and give you all the details about the Baal Shem Tov. You can Google that if you want to learn more. But here we go. So he is living in, I guess, Ukraine, Poland, somewhere, in Europe, many hundreds of years ago. And he's very wise, and people go to him for advice and help and all of that. So someone comes to him that's the richest man in the town and says, I have made such great achievements. I'm very wealthy. I look after my family. I follow all the rules of Judaism. I would like to have Elijah come to my Seder this year. And the Baal Shem Tov says, cool, no problem. Let's hook that up. And the guy says, great, what do I need to do? And the Baal Shem Tov says, everything you're preparing for the Seder, all the food and the accoutrement and the festivities, pack it all up. I'm going to tell you where to go. And you're going to have a Seder and Elijah's going to come. And pack up some extra, some clothing, some kids' clothing and some gifts of charity, all of that. And he draws him a little map and says, this is where you're going to go. Bring your family. So this rich, wealthy Jewish guy tells his wife, hey, I talked to the Baal Shem Tov. He's going to hook us up. We're going to get Elijah at the Seder. This is awesome. I've always wanted to meet him. I'm so excited. Let's pack everything up, grab all the kids. We're going on an adventure. So they follow the map to the outskirts of the city, and they see a little cabin right nearby the forest. And there's a man who lives there with his wife and kids, and he works chopping down wood in the forest. Very poor, destitute, can barely provide for his family. And the rich man looks around and says, I'm a little surprised that this is the house Elijah picked, but we're here for it. So he knocks on the door and he says, hi, my name's Mr. Rich Guy. The Baal Shem Tov sent me here for Seder. Can we join you? And there's a custom in Judaism that everyone who needs a Seder gets to be welcome somewhere. You always make sure that no one is alone, misses out. But the guy who answers the door says, I wish we could help, but I have so little. We were just going to have a normal dinner. I can't afford anything more. And I was going to tell my kids the story. But, not with all of the traditional happenings of a lavish Seder meal. I know what you're used to. You're very wealthy, and I cannot provide for you like that. And the rich guy says, no problem. I brought everything. It's all packed up in the wagon. We'll unload it all. We'll have a great time. So the poor guy says, okay, this is my wife. Introduce kids, wives. Everyone says hello. They do the Seder. Everyone eats and drinks. They tell the story. I don't have a great understanding of what happens at Passover. It's not something I normally celebrate. Yada, yada, yada. Seder, they pour the glass of wine for Elijah. They open the door. The rich dude's at the edge of his seat. Elijah's supposed to come. No Elijah. No sign of the prophet. The rich dude's really bummed. They keep going. They finish everything up. He's like, did I follow the map wrong? Did I not bring what I was supposed to? I try and live by the rules. I'm the main, macher of the town. Everyone looks to me for guidance and wisdom and help and charity. And I was promised Elijah, and there was no Elijah. So they pack everything up and they go home and they go to sleep, and he wakes up the next morning and he says, I'm going to pay a visit to that Baal Shem Tov because I got hoodwinked. He told me what to do, and I did it, and there was no Elijah. So he goes to see the Baal Shem Tov in the morning, and he says, what's the deal? We had an agreement. I was getting Elijah, no Elijah. Spill. And the Baal Shem Tov says, come back tonight around 8 p.m. and I will clear this up for you. So the guy goes home, comes back in the evening, drives his wagon back to see the Baal Shem Tov. And as he's getting close, he sees that the poor man who had hosted him the previous evening is there visiting with the Baal Shem Tov. And he leaves his wagon behind and he sneaks up to try and see what this conversation is. That maybe these two people were in cahoots to swindle him. What's the deal? So he gets closer, starts listening in, and he overhears the conversation of the poor man saying, it was time to do the Seder, it was time to do Passover, and I could not provide for my family. I could not give them a Seder. And, that is such an important part of what we do every year. And I was going to let them down, and we were just going to have a normal meal. And a great miracle happened. Right as we were getting ready to start, there was a knock on the door. And a wonderful angel graced our presence and said he had brought food and wine and clothing for the children and gifts and charity, all of this to make our night perfect, to give a Seder for the children, and to show that truly these acts of loving kindness and charity can improve the world. And so the rich man realized that he had in fact been at a Seder with Elijah. And that's the story.